It's not me.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you and call to order the July 11th Port Orchard City Council regular meeting. And I'd like to remind us of our guiding principles and the actions that we're about to take this evening. And they are we raising the bar? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building connections with outside partners? And is the decision-making process positively impacting diversity, equity, and inclusion? Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
All right, we have a published an agenda this evening. Are there any proposed modifications to this evening's agenda? Councilmember Trineri?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to add to the consent agenda item G, the excusal of Councilmember Diener for personal reasons. I'd also like to make a motion.
One at a time, please.
Okay.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second to excuse Councilmember Diener. Add that as item G to the consent agenda. Any discussion of that item? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Councilmember Diener's excusal has been added to the consent agenda. Councilmember Trineri, do you have another motion?
I do. I would also like to make a motion to remove business item A from the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Trineri, a second by Councilmember Lucarelli to remove item A from our business items this evening. Any discussion of that item?
I'd like to hear the rationale for that.
Okay, as motion maker, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. I feel the opportunity to raise awareness and provide a public hearing and comment period is really important for our citizens. But the idea of providing an official council position that was discussed in a good order segment of a previous meeting, and the council body unofficially voted this topic down at that point, I feel sets a bad precedence.
Others wish to comment before action is taken? Councilmember Rosa Pepin.
One of the reasons I asked to bring this...
Is your microphone on, sir? Or-
I'm sorry. I thought it's on.
Okay,
Speaking
you
to
can
it.
just get a little
Right.
closer to it there.
One of the reasons that I asked to bring this back on as a public meeting is past precedents that we have looked at deciding resolutions to support or non-support of items that are brought to us in public hearings. And I think that until we come up with a definitive decision of a full council, which we did not have that night, I think we should continue with our precedents.
Okay.
So I'll be voting against it.
Right. Others wish to speak for or against Councilmember Cacciardi? I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo kind of what Mark had to say. I know we've had some precedent in the past, but just I think over my years on council, I just really don't believe it's the role of a city council member to be taking, asking an entire council to take a position on these types of issues. I think it's fantastic that we're having a public hearing this evening to let our community learn more about the items, but imagine the day that the council maybe were to vote in opposition of something. I think, an unintended consequence of that could be really crippling to a third party's effort. And so I think it's great for us to have the public hearing and to engage in dialogue, but I don't think it's our position as elected officials to really, focus on the policy setting of our city to take a position. So I'll also support the removal of the business item. Happy that we're having the public hearing tonight.
Others wish to provide?
I do, please.
Okay. Councilmember Lucarelli, I see you.
Yes, thank you. I also am voting in favor of removing it from the agenda. As I reviewed what policies other cities in Kitsap County have, most cities do not weigh in on these kinds of things. And so I also feel it's best not to. I totally support, of course, Kitsap Fire and Rescue, but I just think it's not in our place. Thank you.
All right. So for clarification, the motion that has been made is to remove business item A, but to continue to hold the public hearing and hear from the public on this measure. I'm hearing, so.
That is correct.
All right. All in favor of removing business item A, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay?
Nay.
One nay. So that the motion carries. Item A has been removed from this evening's agenda. Are there any other modifications to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Councilmember Chang.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a motion by Councilmember Chang, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe to approve the amended agenda. Any further discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been set for this evening. We are to our first citizen comment period, and that's for any items on the agenda. If you're here to testify on the public hearing related to the fire levy, that is actually later. That would not be at this moment in time. But we welcome citizens. Anyone is allowed to come to the microphone. You're allowed 3 minutes to speak on any item on this evening's agenda. And if you're online, use the raise your hand feature, and the clerk will acknowledge you and bring you into the meeting. So is anyone wishing to address the city council at this point? We have a second citizen comment period at the end of the meeting also. See any hands raised either? Last opportunity. All right, I'm going to close the first citizen comment period. We have a consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Councilmember Clausen.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Seconded.
We have a motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Trineri to approve the amended consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda has been approved. We had two presentations this evening. The second one by Deanna Dawson of Association of Washington Cities. She reached out to me this morning and her child was sick, so she is going to reschedule and come back and give us that presentation about the Association of Washington Cities. So we did, Mr. Bond is going to share a slide deck, and I had the clerk provide. So last Thursday, we had a very exciting event where we had the Transportation Secretary, two senators, the governor, our congressperson, and Congressmember Kilmer. I don't recall ever having a senator in Port Orchard, and we had them both in town. And the governor's office reached out to me the day before and said, but we funded all these things, you know, a number of things in Port Orchard. I said, yes, you have. And so they asked us for some data, and Nick and his intern worked very hard for almost a full day on preparing a slide deck and data. And then the governor got sidetracked with ferries and didn't use any of our information. And we thought it was really good stuff. So we're going to share that with you tonight because it kind of blew my mind away how many things. I know we got a lot going on, but when you put it all in a slide deck and put some data to it, it's pretty amazing. So go ahead, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, and before I begin, I just want to say, too, that Congressman Kilmer came just 2 weeks prior, and so we did a walkthrough on a Port of Bremerton project with Congressman Kilmer, and so we started putting together a slide deck of different projects. We updated it for the governor, and then we started adding dollar amounts, and this is just downtown. It's a significantly larger number if you include what's outside of downtown. But the projects that we have, we're going to talk about the breakwater, electric ferry charging infrastructure, the Bay Street reconstruction, the Bay Street pedestrian path, the City Hall reskin, the Community Event Center, the Orchard Street Plaza, the Marina Lift Station, and then the two private projects, Kitsap Bank headquarters and the 429 Bay Street project. And we put together this spreadsheet, and we started adding up how much federal money, state money, money from the Public Facilities District, money from our local city, and then from outside agencies. And once you add the private development to that, we're at $161 million of investment in downtown Port Orchard. $60 million of that is private between the Kitsap Bank project and the 429 Bay Street project, but it's still a huge investment in the city's downtown. Of that, 24.9 million is coming from the feds. We've got 26.8 million coming from the state, another 18 million from the Public Facilities District, and only 24 million of that is from the city. So we're leveraging city funds to a huge degree. The projects that we shared with our elected officials, the big one that everyone wanted to talk about was the Marina Breakwater. It's a $15.7 million project. They just received $9.4 million from the RAISE program from the feds. Plus, they have three separate state grants for over $5 million on that project. And that breakwater is going to protect the marina and also will provide electric ferry infrastructure so that you can charge ferries from the breakwater. The electric ferry grants that have been received, there is $13 million for an all-electric ferry, including $4 million from the feds and $6.5 from the state. And there's another $3.7 million grant, or $3.7 million for ferry charging infrastructure, of which $3 million is coming from the feds. We received a grant to reconstruct Bay Street. We received $1 million in federal design money, and we are going out to advertise for that project tomorrow to select a consultant to design the final engineering of this project. And we have another $2.2 million in construction funds through PSRC, and that's federal money. The Bay Street pedestrian pathway that we've been working on for quite a while, we have over $5 million in federal money for that project, and we've contributed quite a bit of local REIT funding for acquisitions. The city received a grant for the Bay Street pathway project for the western pathway. That's from the ferry dock west to Port Orchard Boulevard and connecting up to the Tremont Street project. And so we have about $566,000 to do the preliminary engineering study on that project. City Hall's reskin project, that's a $10.9 million project to totally rehab our now 30-something-year-old building. The Community Event Center project included $18.5 million in Kitsap Public Facility District funding. The library is contributing about $5.5 million towards that project, and we also have a state grant for $500,000 related to the shoreline restoration effort on that project. The Orchard Street Plaza, we just started design work on this phase that's shown on the red area of the map, and we are still seeking grant funding for this project. This is the only unfunded project on the list, but it's something that we're trying to commit ourselves to as part of building the Community Event Center project. The Marina Lift Station downtown, that's actually a federal or a state loan, Clean Water State Revolving Fund, $13 million, plus we're using our federal ARPA funds on that project. And I don't know, I think we open bids next week, is that right, on that one?
The 18th.
Yeah. As I mentioned, there's an environmental cleanup project with the Port of Bremerton. $800,000 was provided from the feds to remove some underground storage tanks and remediate contaminated soil. And once that work is done, this site will presumably be available for some port-related development. And then finally, the private development. Everyone saw the Kitsap Bank headquarters project presentation just a few weeks ago. That's estimated to be about a $40 million private investment that brings 50 new jobs to the city. And then 429 Bay Street is where the old Lighthouse restaurant was. We are told that they're going to break ground on this. They've started removing mechanical equipment from the building, so I would expect to see demolition in the next few weeks, and this is a mixed-use residential project that'll be on the waterfront. And so that was what we shared with the Secretary of Transportation and our elected leaders, and it's a really exciting time in Port Orchard.
Yes. It was thank you. We just thought it was too good to not share, and yeah. Any questions or comments from the council? I keep asking people to pinch me. I can't believe what happened last week. It was amazing. So thank you, Nick. That was great. All right, we are to our public hearing, and this evening, since the council isn't going to take action, I'm going to limit people testifying to 3 minutes, just like a normal public comment period, and I'm only going to allow people to testify once. So be concise. You only got 3 minutes, and make sure you you say everything you want to say because you won't get an opportunity to come back. So with that, I will open the public hearing on the South Kitsap Fire and Rescue Levy ballot measure.
Mr. Mayor, can I just make a statement in advance of public
may.
comment? Thank you. So the public hearing that's occurring this evening is pursuant to the council's direction from the June 27th meeting to hold a public hearing on the ballot measure that's pending before the voters. This proposition number 1 is the proposition at issue, and the language on the ballot is stated in the packet. Pursuant to state law, specifically RCW 4217A.1 or .555, the city is prohibited from using a public facility to campaign for a particular ballot proposition. This public hearing is a limited exception to that, where the council has directed that a public hearing occur to hear from proponents and opponents of the legislation in advance of the council choosing to take action as a group on that proposition. I understand the council has decided to remove that item from its agenda. However, after holding this public hearing, the council retains the ability to take action to support or oppose the item. So this public hearing, again, is an exception to RCW 4217A.555. And so members of the public choosing to testify, and individual council members, if you so choose to testify, can do so in proposition of or support of or opposition to the ballot measure. This is a limited exception under that statute. So my typical admonition with regards to statements in support of or against does not apply to this particular public hearing. Thanks.
Anybody like to testify on this matter? Step to the microphone and please identify yourself for the record, and you've got 3 minutes.
Good evening, Council. My name is Peter Bradrick. I'm a local businessman, investor, and property owner here in Kitsap County. I have the unique opportunity to run a real estate business and in relationship with thousands of people around the community, specifically related to property ownership. So this is something that is both near and dear to my heart and also our community. And so I just wanted to take the opportunity, was excited to come out here today. I think in a season where we've all been, it's been a tough season for our community, for our country specifically, and I think everyone is tired of politics and posturing and high taxes, and so I think that there's a lot of rumblings of, hey, how do we approach this? And I just want to say publicly, I think this is one of those rare, unusual opportunities for our community to come together around something that isn't political. It's actually the very core infrastructure of our community. I don't know that I have ever publicly backed a raising of any kind of public funding or taxes, but in this case, it's not even a raising, it's a reinstituting of something that we've been doing already. And I've spent a lot of time digging into the finances and what has actually happened with South Kitsap Fire Department, and came with an open mind and have been incredibly impressed with the integrity with the way that organization has been run, the integrity with the way the money has been handled. And I think I would like to propose to our community, this is a rare opportunity for us to gather together and support something that really is a no-brainer, and an opportunity to not only to invest in our local heroes that are supporting our community, but really in our own homes, our community, and our children's futures.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Us wishing to address the ballot measure and testify. Please do. I know you, but please identify yourself for the record, Chief. Former Deputy Retired Chief.
Good evening, Council. My name's Steve Wright. I'm the former Fire Chief with South Kitsap here, and currently serving as the Executive Director for the Washington Fire Chiefs Association in Olympia. I came out tonight to support this effort and also help answer questions that may be arising through some of the campaigns that haven't exactly been open or honest with what I've been seeing in the public. As far as the council's position on this tonight, I would like to throw the idea out there that, government's position and job in our community is to provide services. And in the late 1990s, the city of Port Orchard gave up their fire department and moved it over to South Kitsap Fire District 7. We renamed it to South Kitsap Fire and Rescue because that covers the whole south end of the county. But as a council, your citizens are relying on SKFR for this essential service. We know that law enforcement, fire, and EMS are key services in any community. And whether Chief Fawcett or the fire commissioners of South Kitsap are communicating and working with the council here, I think there has to be awareness that there is a relationship there that's valued to all the citizens in South Kitsap. As far as this levy, we have been on 2 funding methods for the history of the fire district. $1.50 opportunity for fire, 50 cents for EMS. They come around every 6 years. This is not a new thing. It's something that's here for renewal. We've all experienced how growth and AVs change and things like that, but the fact of the matter is the growth in this community is driving call volume. We always use the statement, people generate calls, and this community is growing. The burden on the fire district is severe. They are running a lot of responses. The lowering of staffing with less funding or the growth that this could bring to help us keep pace, it should be real evident to all of us. The idea that our reliability, where the stations keep becoming emptied out with response, that has an impact. Longer response times have an impact. Some of the things that the citizens have been, the No Committee have been saying about mutual aid and things like that are completely wrong and inaccurate. And so I'm here to say, please consider supporting this, if not formally as a body, at least within the circles that you run, because it is an essential service and we cannot stand to have ourselves move backwards. I was with the City Council Spokane last night. I was in Ephrata for lunch. I travel around the state doing this new job, and this community needs this to pass. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them after the meeting. Thank you.
For your testimony. Others wishing to provide testimony?
Good evening. I'm John Metter. I'm a citizen that lives in your community, south end of Kitsap County. And at one time, I was one of your officers with Port Orchard PD, eventually Bremerton Police, and then I retired out of Kitsap County. I've worked with every fire department within this community for the last 22 years. And I could say from my experience alone, since I've been retired in September, we don't have enough emergency services. It's just obvious. I say that from personal experience as well. This department has been there to save my wife, my grandmother, my mother, and my son, to include myself on the job, many occasions. So I can't stress to you enough that I know for a fact there just aren't enough of them, because going to those calls, one after another, and responding with EMS, and knowing there's 3 other calls still pending, whether it be an entrapment, house on fire, someone that's deceased, a mental health patient, or whatever it might be, there just not enough of us to go around. The big events that have happened since my career here, we didn't have enough for the tornado that hit Port Orchard. Officer involved shooting at Walmart, 2 of my deputies went down. That took multiple agencies to support that and get those deputies to Tacoma, which once again took EMS off the streets of Port Orchard and had to be supported by Bremerton. Entrapments, mental health, I went on about that, but really without continuing on about this, we need them, we gotta have them, they're our team. I don't know why we wouldn't, without thought, support our own team, our own fire agency. I read something recently on social media about somebody will always show up, someone will always respond. You're right, the fire in Kitsap County, or Kitsap Way in Bremerton, the furniture store that burned down took Pierce County, Mason County, Jefferson County, and all of South, Central, and North to take care of that fire. What did that leave you with here in the South End? Very minimal staffing. One fire alone takes away many firefighters. One mental health patient takes away many firefighters. You don't have enough. And from a law enforcement perspective, I can tell you going to those calls, there's so much of that we do not do from that standpoint. To me, it's just a no-brainer. So anyway, I really appreciate your time, and thanks for listening to me. Good day.
Testimony. Also wish to testify this evening?
Andy Mitchell, I'm the union president for the Fire Union 2876, also a firefighter, also a business owner in this state, not in this county. But let this be my intent is for this to be the emotional plea from the people doing the work. What he says is true. We're doing more than any district in the county, and probably several counties, with fewer people. Our calls per 1,000 citizens are higher. Our number of firefighters per 1,000 citizens are lower. And if we don't pass this, it's just going to continue to hurt. The community is going to continue to grow. What we saw on the slideshow is amazing, and you all, you know, owe a lot of gratitude from the citizens for putting that all together. But that's more, it's more of everything. It's more jobs, it's more people living on Bay Street, that's more of everything, which means more calls, which means we need more infrastructure. So almost as if, even if we do pass this levy, and I really hope we do, but we're almost still not caught up, and we're almost still falling behind. And that's just, part of that is the trappings of the community and the assessed values being what they are compared to our comparables. But if we get a structure fire, and we don't use mutual aid, which we almost always need mutual aid, that's, Chief, 14 people to a structure fire? Out of 19? So, quick math, really bad at math, but that doesn't leave a lot for the rest of the district. And that's probably less people than a structure fire needs. BLS calls, red calls. Everyone to the north and south of us runs those with 4 people, we do them with 2. And I don't know how much longer the people doing the work, the union members, can let that be on their own backs, because it's painful, it's exhausting, and that's why I'm up here giving you the emotional plea, because it really does matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Does anyone else wish to testify? Somebody online wants to testify. Use the raise your hand feature, and we'll bring you into the meeting.
Chief Fawcett, South Kitsap. Council, I want to thank you for openness. I think that it's important as a community that we hear all sides of the story. And for you to do what you did tonight, I think it says a lot that you are engaged with the community and you want to hear everything that's going on. And I don't need, I've spent 10 minutes here, I've talked with you, alone, and we know the need. I was reminded this last week as we were down at the park that out of cities that are over 15,000 residents, we're the seventh fastest growing city in the state of Washington. And with growth, there becomes requirements. With growth, there becomes demands for our service. And we all have a duty to keep up with that. And I'm here tonight on behalf of our citizens. I am a citizen in South Kitsap. I'm here on behalf of my employees, the volunteers' career, that we are doing everything we can. And when I come in on July 4th and I look at firefighters who have been on a structure fire, that have had to put IVs in their arm to try and rehab, firefighters who have lost their lunch on the sidelines, and watch other firefighters who went from structure fire to brush fire to brush fire to brush fire in a matter of about 6 minutes or 6 hours. That's just one day. And today I watched, as I'm preparing for here, watch the truck come in and out and in and out. And I see it in the mornings. If you want to see it, come look at the exhaustion on your firefighters' faces every morning. It's not here for a sob story, but 13,000 calls with 19 firefighters on duty is simply not enough. And we have to make some increases. And if this levy does not pass, there will be changes that we have to make as a fire district. So I'm asking for everybody to be informed, make their decision, but we want people to have the right ideas and the right information when they go to the ballots this August. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Last call. Anybody else wishing to testify on this matter? All right, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'm going to move on to our business items now. Business item A has been removed. We'll move on to business item B, which is adoption of an ordinance adopting a new Port Orchard Municipal Code, chapters 13.05, fats, oils, and grease, and 13.07, cross-connection control. Mr. Lang, this is you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. City of Port Orchard seeks to enhance the tools available for the protection of the public water and sewerage systems from contamination via cross connections and the negative impacts of fats, oils, and grease. This ordinance proposes new chapters to Title 13, Public Utilities for Cross-Connection Control, and Fats, Oil, and Grease to provide expanded, updated regulations in this arena. In conformance with Washington State Department of Health regulations, the city currently monitors and regulates all actual or potential physical connections between the public water system or a customer's water system and any source of non-potable liquid, solid, or gas that could contaminate the potable water supply by backflow. However, the city desires to expand those regulations to match industry standard and to ensure necessary cross-connection controls are in place to protect the water system. Similarly, large quantities of fats, oil, and grease that are discharged from commercial and residential kitchens contribute to blockages in the city's sewerage system. The resulting clogs in sewer pipes cost the city money each year in grease removal and sewer repair costs and result in the overall degradation of the city's sewer infrastructure. The city desires to adopt enhanced regulations to govern the use of tools to limit the discharge of fats, oil, and grease in the city's sewerage system. During the SEPA comment period, the city received comments on the draft ordinance from Kitsap Public Health that triggered minor modifications to the title of the Kitsap Public Health Officer and the provisions for the cleaning of floor mats and kitchen appliances. Staff recommends the council approve the ordinance as presented.
Councilmember Chang.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance adopting new chapters 1305 and 1307, establishing regulations for the discharge of fats, oil, and grease, and cross-connection control within the city.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Chang, a second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe. Are there any questions? Mr. Lang, and I see Ms. Jackie Brown is here too, and she's, I'm certain, would love to talk about this. All right, I'm not hearing any questions. So you'll be voting on an ordinance adopting a new municipal code, chapters 13.05 and 13.07. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the new ordinance has been approved. For item C, adoption of a resolution amending the procurement policy to increase delegated authority for the public works change orders and contract amendments. Mr. Lang, this is you again.
Thank you. Pursuant to the city's procurement policies and procedures, at Section 7, all change orders to existing contracts require council's approval if the change order, number one, exceeds 10% of the legally authorized budget limit for the applicable project, or exceeds 10% of the contract amount established by City Council. However, the delegated authority is capped at a maximum approval amount of $50,000 for directors and $100,000 for the mayor. Staff has historically interpreted this provision to aggregate the total of all change orders. For example, for a $500,000 project, the mayor may execute one $50,000 change order, but from then on, all change orders, regardless of size, must be approved by the council. This can lead to project delays as contractors remain in standby status until approval can be obtained from council. Notably, the council sometimes elects to cancel its August meeting during the high construction season, meaning change orders sit idle for over a month. Staff previously recommended a limited modification to the city's procurement policies to increase the delegated authority, to increase the change order authority to respond to an emergency. Due to COVID, suggested modifications did not move forward as proposed amendment to the policies. At the June 2023 Finance Committee meeting, staff proposed modifications to the procurement policies to increase delegated authority under certain conditions. By this resolution, staff requests the following modifications to allow for timely resolution of change orders. Number one would be consistent with council's previous delegation of authority to execute agreements with the value of under $7,500, allowed for additional delegated authority to execute change orders on small or less than $35,000 agreements where the individual change order does not exceed $7,500 up to an aggregate cap of $10,000. For contracts with an initial value of $35,000, modify the 10% cap by resetting the contract total following all council approved change orders. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution modifying the procurement policies to increase delegated authority to staff for execution of change orders and contract amendments for public works projects.
Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution amending the city's procurement policies pertaining to delegation of authority for public works change orders and contract amendments.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Terneri. And I think the members of the Finance Committee will recall that we brought this to them this last month. We thought we'd done this pre-COVID, and when we look back, we hadn't. And so we dusted it back off, brought it to the Finance Committee, and I think the big thing there is too that once the change order is approved, the change order authority is reset. And so we'll be careful to put that in the documents as you're approving those change orders, because historically that hasn't happened. And then every change order, regardless of the dollar amount, you could have a multi-million-dollar project and we're bringing you $5,000 change orders, and that's not an efficient way to do business. So, Councilmember Clausen.
And you said it very well. I just wanted to make sure that folks really understood that the crux of this important piece is that once they come back and we bless the actions that the staff has taken, that resets the change order authority back to zero, so they can then continue on with managing the projects effectively. And the only other one that I just wanted to point out is more of a Scribner's. In the resolution on the second page, the paragraph just before section B, I think there's an extra zero in that first 75000 as opposed to 7500. That you either need to move the comment or delete it, a zero, one of the two.
And the intent is not to move the comma, it's to delete the extra zero, yes. So the authority would be 7,500, not 75,000. Yeah, thank you for catching that.
Good catch. All right, Councilmember Rosepepe, and then I'll call on Councilmember Cacciardi.
No, I think it's really good to remind people that it is not an open checkbook for the city or the mayor, that this is a necessary tool to keep business flowing and keep projects flowing to the benefits of our citizens, which the mayor, as you and Nick showed tonight, we have a lot of projects.
Yeah. And, you know, the delay, if we have a contractor, what's the term for that when we've got them waiting for us to do? Standby. Yeah, we'll pay more in standby than we will in the change order. Absolutely. If we don't keep the project moving. So, Councilmember Cacciardi.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate, Rob, what you said, and Councilmember Clausen and Rosepepe just said, maybe in a little bit different way. But, you know, part of the background of this policy is the checks and balances as it relates to finance between City Council and the executive branch. And this does not change that, right? We're able to reset the contract value only after the City Council approves the change order. So I just wanted to double down on what was saying. This does not impact checks and balances. It just provides the efficiencies you say after the council approves the change orders.
Well said. Other comments or questions? Right, you'd be voting on a resolution amending the procurement policies to increase delegated authority for public works change orders and contract amendments. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the resolution passes. For item D, approval of amendment number 5 to contract number 048-20 with Consor North America, Inc. for well number 11 site improvement project. Mr. Lang.
Thank you. The city is currently undertaking the McCormick Woods well number 11 site improvement project to make improvements to needed utility infrastructure. On May 26, 2020, following a procurement process that complied with state and federal law and the city's procurement policies, the City Council approved contract C048-20 with engineering and consulting firm Consor North America, Inc., formerly Murray Smith, Inc., for the project. The project was identified as a priority task for the Public Works Department, utilizing a phased approach. On November 25th, 2020, July 27th, 2021, September 1st, 2021, and November 17th, 2022, respectively, amendments 1, 2, 3, and 4 were approved. ultimately extending the agreement's termination date to December 31st, 2024, and increasing the agreement's time and materials not to exceed to a total of $723,406. Staff has determined that the continued engineering services are required through construction to support the continuation of the project. The city and the consultant have conferred and agreed to an increased fee for the necessary continued work. As amended by this proposed amendment number 5, the not to exceed amount of the agreement will be increased by $291,100 to a new total of $1,014,506, inclusive of all work performed and compensated to date. The 2023-2024 budget includes funding for the continuation of service. Staff recommends the council authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 5 to contract C048-20 with Consor North America, Inc. for the McCormick Woods Well Number 11 Site Improvement Project, increasing the contract amount by $291,100 for a total amended contract amount of $1,014,506.
Councilmember Lucarelli?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 5 to contract number C048-20 with Consor North America, Inc. for the McCormick Woods Well Number 11 Site Improvement Project.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lucarelli, a second by Councilmember Clausen. And questions on this project? This is for the construction management services primarily. And I believe next week we will open the bids on
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday on this, and the Marina Pump Station is next week too.
Correct.
So come back in a week. I hope I have all kinds of good news. If you don't see me, it's because I'm out somewhere drowning my sorrows, but hopefully you see me.
Well, that opening is Thursday?
For this one, and I think it's
The
Tuesday.
marina is Tuesday and well 11 will be Thursday.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll only have one. We'll have the
So
big
we
one.
hear about one.
You'll hear about one of them, yep. And then the following week, we'll hear about the second one. So hopefully we've got good news on both of them, so. Questions? All right, hearing none, you'll be approving amendment number 5 to contract number 04820 with Consor North America for well number 11 project. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the amendment is approved. Go to item E, the approval of the June 13th council meeting minutes. Is there a motion? Councilmember Clausen.
Mayor, I move that we approve the council meeting minutes of June 13th, 2023.
Second.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Clausen, a second by Councilmember Terneri. Anybody see any amendments or modifications that need to happen? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. And we're looking for a motion to approve the June 20th work study council meeting minutes. Councilmember Rosepepe.
Move to approve the June 20th work study meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rosepepe, a second by Councilmember Cacciardi, and I believe I'll have abstentions by Councilmember Terneri and Clausen. Any modifications or amendments to the work study meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And 2 abstentions. All right, we have no discussion items and council committee reports. There is no Economic Development Committee meeting scheduled. I believe the recent one just got canceled for no business items. Utilities was just canceled, I believe, for this evening for no action items. Finance meets next week. Transportation meets on the 25th. Festival of Chimes and Lights is on the 17th. This is going fast. Land use, July 19th. That's also next week. And anything to report on lodging tax? Councilmember Cacciardi? No?
No, we'll just be gearing up to start applications here a little bit later in the summer.
Okay, and anything on sewer advisory? I see the next meeting is on the 20th of September. Okay.
Nothing to report.
Okay. I'll give you my outside agencies. Today was Super Tuesday. That was a week later because of 4th of July. And so the big deal was the Department of Emergency Management meeting. And we're in the process of a reorganization. There's a new interim director that's probably going to get named as the director. And it's really a county it's under the county umbrella, and the new ILA will, one, restructure the dues. Currently, it's based on population, and the new director feels it's more appropriate that it's done on land, because emergency happened because in the Department of Emergency Management world, we had a tornado. We're planning for earthquakes. We're landslides and things of that nature. So the impact to Port Orchard and to most of the cities is a reduction in the dues that we'll pay. Our dues will go down by $5,000 a year to $25,000 a year on this new structure for the dues. They also feel that it shouldn't necessarily be elected officials on this policy board, because we're not the emergency management people. Our public works directors typically are, our police chiefs, our fire chiefs, and that should be the composition of the board. Not necessarily, it could be me but I could delegate that, and that's going to be likely the proposal in the new ILA that I can delegate that authority. And since Chief Brown isn't here tonight, he's probably going to get nominated to be the new emergency management person. So, we'll share that with him later. But no, he's really taken an active role in that, and he's the logical choice at this time, I think, to be that person. But anyway, the county's working on that, and more to come on that, but you'll likely see a new ILA before the end of the year. And the good thing is that our dues will likely go down as a result. So we are to the mayor's report, and since Council Member Cacciardi is not here this evening in person, I'm gonna not have a mayor's report. I just I have nothing to report.
Wow.
Because I know how much you love my mayor's report.
Mayor, before you
Yep.
Go into your report,
I don't have one.
You're not
I
going
don't
to do it?
I don't have one.
Oh, okay. I thought you might do a recap of last Thursday, because that was such an awesome event for the city.
It was, we had to kind of play it on the download for security reasons. We knew about a week ahead, and when our police department, Public Works, and Nick Bond took, a very active role in all the planning, and I appreciate everything our team did. It was just an amazing experience. I mean, we've talked about it today at a couple of policy board meetings and at lunch today. It's just an extremely positive experience, and continues to shine a positive light on our city and the energy that came from it. I still can't believe it happened to have the transportation secretary, the governor, our two senators, and both senators, and everybody in the room. It was down on our waterfront. They were here for lunch down at the dock, and then came over. It was, the only negative from the whole thing was the broadcast media there, and they really, if you watch the news that night, those questions about the ferry systems, which wasn't at all related to what we were doing, they were preparing an article, and the event before ours was in Mukilteo and was about ferry infrastructure. So that was bleed over, and it's just what happened. That was the only, I guess, negative to the whole thing is the questions from the press and the media weren't relevant to what we were doing down there and celebrating that the secretary was there, and this fabulous award from the federal government to replace this vital infrastructure, the Marina Breakwater. that's what it was about. Councilmember Clausen?
Yeah, I would just add a couple comments. And one, I think Port Orchard received a tremendous amount of acknowledgement prior to the visit, because I know just about every news media that you could tune into or listen to commented. They didn't talk too much about the secretary at Mukilteo. They referred to his visit in Port Orchard. And they even misquoted the timing that he was going to start his day in Port Orchard, and they kind of forgot about Mukilteo. So from that standpoint, I thought it was great that Port Orchard got a tremendous amount of coverage. The second thing, although it didn't really, other than we are all aware of it, I had one of my staff members there who's tasked with taking photos, and one of the photos that we took was actually picked up by the White House and sent out through the White House Twitter account. And I didn't see the Twitter message, but I'm sure it was reported as the secretary in Port Orchard. At least I would hope. And secondly, just for your information, Mary, this wasn't the first time that we've had the senator here. Senator Murray came to Port Orchard one time, probably before you were born, but she was here. And the last time that I'm aware of that we were fortunate to even see the transportation secretary was the Secretary LaHood came to Bremerton when Bremerton opened the tunnel from the new ferry terminal. So it doesn't happen very often, I can tell you. So
Another cool moment was this all came a week ahead is when all of the planning and everything started happening. And then, so Friday, just before noon, I got an email from one of the secretary's staff members and wanting my cell phone number because they wanted it for planning purposes for next week, in case something come up. So gladly provided it. And about an hour later, my phone rings, and it's a Washington, D.C. number, and I'm going, I better take that. And it was actually the secretary personally called me. Wanted to talk about Port Orchard, what's going on in Port Orchard, and the visit. And so, yeah, so to have a couple personal interactions. One, you saw the picture, and then two, the conversation we had. Phenomenal human being, and he really went above and beyond for us, and reaching out and asking about our community, and showing that did he care about where these dollars are going and what impact they were having. So it was a really, really cool experience. Nick, you have anything to share from? You were very involved in this too.
No, nothing to share. I'm just behind on everything else because of all the time I spent on that last year.
Touche. Yeah, that's true. It was kind of all hands on deck. So, all right. Thank you, Jay, for prodding me on that. It was, we definitely need to celebrate the moment. Let's see here. We're department heads. Mr. Lang, do you have anything?
Yeah, thank you. I know this will be the last formal meeting I'll have with everyone in the same room, so I want to thank you for 12 years of employment. And of course, I wish you all the best of luck in the future and success, and same goes to staff as well and my coworkers. So thank you.
Jackie Brown's here, as soon to be our interim Public Works Director. And have anything you'd like to share tonight, Jackie?
No, I just hope I have big shoes to fill behind Mark and Tony, so I hope I can do the city proud.
Yeah, I know you will. Just got to get us Foster fixed.
I'm trying.
I know you are. Nick?
Well, I would like to say thank you to Tony as well. It's been great working with you, and I hope that we annex your new employer sometime soon so that we can get you back. I did want to report tonight a couple new developments that you're probably seeing around town that have broken ground. The McCormick Village clearing has begun on the commercial development. So if you've gone out to Yarrow and McCormick Village Drive, you'll see that they're doing that work out there. The Blueberry Apartments project broke ground, I think, a week or two ago, and then Sedgwick Apartments is now well underway. I think they're starting to put up forms for foundations. So those are three major projects outside of downtown going forward in the city. I also wanted to report we launched our Camino platform for submitting permits online about a year ago. This is the first month that my staff has forwarded me a monthly report about visitor and usage, and in the month of June we had 117 unique people visit the site, and 121 applications of various types were submitted. Some of those were multiple applications from one person. What we've realized is that it's so easy to submit applications now. We'll get 24 applications at one time from one of our builders, and it's causing a major backlog as we try to process permits. And so for the past 3 months, we've had just a pile that we've been working to route, process, calculate permit fees, and that had been up around 170 a couple weeks ago. We're down to about 130 permits that still have to be entered into our system and routed. But I think the way things look right now, this year we're going to exceed even last year, which was a record year for permits. It's just really, really busy, and we're getting through permits as fast as we can. But my employees are all putting in extra hours, and it's just incredibly busy in DCD right now. So that's all I have to report.
Charlie?
Thank you. Just echoing the comments about Tony, you'll be sorely missed, but yes, I do look forward to that annexation as well. And I sent council an email about the decision that came out in the grants pass matter that we've been waiting on, and just wanted to flag that for you if you hadn't seen that in your email. The Ninth Circuit did decline en banc review. You'll note that there was a hefty discussion, and it postured with quite a few dissents. And I discovered through this process that retired justices can file statements, and that's why you'll notice there's lots of statements on the case as well. This occurred with the Martin decision as well, the same sort of posturing at the Ninth Circuit level. So it'll be interesting to see if this leads to a Supreme Court decision on this topic as well. I think that's what the Ninth Circuit sort of, why they tend to file all these opinions, is to posture themselves in that manner for further review. Potentially. The one thing I noted in my email, I believe, if I did not, I want to note it now, is that the amended opinion issued as a result of the petition for en banc review does soften some of the restrictions that were in the underlying opinion with regards to there being sort of an analysis that we use that looks at the exact number of beds against the exact number of people. They've softened that it's not that sort of stark bright line calculation, but that we still need to be mindful of pushing involuntarily homeless individuals into criminal punishments when there are no other places for them to sleep in the city, whether it be outdoors or otherwise. So somewhat of useful clarification from the court, not exactly the level of clarification we were looking for as far as definition of terms like reasonably available shelter. They didn't grapple with the issue of whether or not if someone has pets, shelter that doesn't provide for the pets constitutes adequate shelter. So there's quite a few issues still pending, and we'll continue to track this case and all the legislation on this topic. So thanks.
Debbie?
Good evening. I didn't participate in the roasting of Tony at the last meeting, so this is my opportunity to do so. But no, Tony, you've been here a lot longer than myself. I've learned a lot from you, and I know you have the respect of the entire department, that shop that you were once a part of, and became the leader and manager of, and then the director. So it's just been a pleasure working with you.
I'm still in denial.
You and me both. And I have no further report for tonight.
And I will echo everybody else. You're going to be missed. And Jackie does have big shoes to fill, but she'll do good. She'll do good. She's got some great mentors behind her, right? Okay. The only thing I have to report is that I submitted to the state the annual report for the public records request data, and we had 557 public records requests last year. I should say 2022. 2021, and then in 2022, we rose up to 633. So you'll see a more of a robust report from me in the next couple weeks that kind of goes over the request and the time spent and the dollar threshold. We, for the last 2 years, have hit that $100,000 threshold for costs associated with responding and processing public records requests and managing city records. So you'll see, like I said, a report from me here in the next couple weeks at the council to let you know where we're at and where we came from.
Go ahead, you first.
Brandy, does your report break out like the number of repeat requesters or the number of requesters that are attorneys versus individuals?
So it does break it down by a type of requesters, attorneys, citizens, insurance, that type of thing, but not frequent requesters. But that's something that I can easily gather and we'll have a slide on it.
Go ahead.
And Brandy, my question was, I believe it's, we're archiving our records with Laserfish, and has that been a big help in this?
Yes,
being
absolutely.
able to do that?
Yep.
Is there any way to quantify that at all, or?
I will compile some data and get you some information on that.
Just curious, because I
Yeah.
know that was a pretty big deal when we approved it, and that just shows a positive outcome
Yes.
on technology as we can use it. So thank you. Any information would be appreciated.
I know if we hadn't have invested in Laserfish and our record or digital records, you would have seen a staff increase in staff.
No.
That's the only way we, it's creating tremendous efficiency.
I'm just looking at any way we can,
Quantify
quantify it, then that gives us, when we talk to people about things that we're doing in the city, it helps.
Go ahead.
Brandy, if you could just do like the Reader's Digest version, the volume of requests, has it stabilized, increased, decreased from last year? What?
It continually goes up. So, yeah. In number of requests and time spent. They get more creative in their language in any and all. And so we have to provide them. Yeah, it's more time consuming.
The number of documents being requested has also gone up. When you say any and all, is that?
That's any and all. That's everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That is it.
Right. We're to our second citizen comment period. Is anybody wishing to address the city council? Anybody online? If you raise your hand, I see, is there a hand up there, Brandon? Bring them into the meeting and then be given 3 minutes. Please identify yourself for the record. There you go. Go ahead.
Oh, Dave Kimball. Thank you. First time I'd been in your chambers here today, but I want to praise the council for making the decision to not support or oppose the fire district's levy. And what struck me was the comment from one of the councilors there, council members, the harm that could come to a third party if there was ever opposition. So the inverse is true. If you do try to do the right thing and support your fire district and your school districts, that's a good thing. I don't agree in this particular case with SKFR until there's some changes to the financial management and the operation and the hierarchy of employment there. But it was nice that there was a good showing there. Saw my neighbor there. People were friendly. And I wish them the best on that. And we'll keep plugging along on both sides of this issue. And thank you so much, Council, for making that decision to pull that off the agenda. That's all I've got.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to address the City Council? Last call. All right, I'm going to close the second citizen comment period. Is there anything for the good of the order? Councilmember Rose Pepe.
Yes, since we've made a decision, it sounds like to not have resolutions for support or vote down. I think that we should possibly, or look for the council that we should codify it, I think is the right word, and put that in our municipal code. And I'd like to see that so we don't bounce around this issue regarding that. So I'm not sure who drafts the language, but if that's acceptable with the council members, I think we should do that. And now, and so we're not, it's not a surprise to anybody when they come to the council again.
So how about, Charlie, would that be, that's something Charlie would work on? How about we too soon for next week's work study? And we don't have a work study in August, so September's work study, maybe we'll bring that draft language to you guys, and maybe, and then if you're comfortable with what you see, then we would take action.
Yes, I think that, but I'd like that we should move forward with this and not basically leave people hanging.
Yeah, fair point. Other comments or questions? Everybody supportive of that, working on that and having it at a work study? I'm seeing heads nod online. Okay, we'll have more further discussion about that and have a policy to consider. Okay.
Thank you.
Other good of the order items? All right, and then our meeting is adjourned this evening.
Bye. Good night, everyone.
Good night.